Okay, good evening, students. Hope all of you are doing well and fine, right? Last few moments to the exam. Before I'm starting my session today, the second session of your paper, which we were discussing the December 2022. Through the paper, we were discussing our subject. We were doing quite a comprehensive revision on the areas and exam approach. So just to check whether my microphone is working. Am I audible to all of you? Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Good. So all is good, right? So we start on time and we finish on time. That's our ethics that we are maintaining, the groundwork. So everybody, so once again, welcome back. And this is the final few hours to your examination. So we thank Mr. Aruna Rupasinghe from CA Sri Lanka and the entire team who is there once again to facilitating the students on this initiative, because these are very important students, which I would say are critical, because students should now it's time to recollect what you have done, right? We all know now you all done here what you are doing as your practice, as your let's say revision, or maybe what you do. Students will help you in getting through the exam. So today what we are planning, students, the last week in our last session, if you can remember, we did 5 questions, right? 5 questions, in sense we completed all the MCQ 10 number 2 to question number 5. 4 questions of 10 marks, 40 marks we have attempted there. So we did that, and today in this session, what we're going to do, we will be attempting question number 6 as well as question number 7, the large 2 questions, right? The large 2 questions, which is the 20 marks questions. So very important part that I won't tell you, the strategizing of your examination. That's what I'm always referring. How do you strategize for your exam? Last week also I gave the tip. If anyone forgotten, or if anyone of you has not participated on that, strategize into your examination, students. These 2 questions which I am doing today, when I make questions, these 2 questions, question number 6 and 7, right? Let me share you the paper, right? The paper is visible to all of you. Good, all is good, right? So see, right, the question number 6 and 7 of your paper, students, really critical, right? This is question 6, where you will get altogether 20 marks, students. See here, 20 marks you will be getting, right? You will be getting 20 marks here. And for the question number 7 itself, you will get 20 marks. So altogether 40 marks. Now I am repeating my strategy, which should be your strategy as well, where if you leave your room, if you leave time to read these 2 questions at the exam time, students, it would be really hard for you to focus and you will run out of time, right? So therefore, my advice to all of you, question number 6 and 7, 6 and 7, attempt these 2 questions, read these 2 questions, read them at the reading time. Reading time you have to fully allocate on answering question number 6 and reading question number 6 and 7. Higher hata kiyawanna reading time එක use කරන්න ළමයි. Because if you leave these to be read at the last moment of your paper, right? The පැය දෙකක් විතර ලියලා, right? අන්තිම පැයේදී මේවා කියවන්න ගත්තොත් ළමයි ඔයාට අමතක වෙනවා. ඔයා මේවා හරියට අල්ලගන්නේ නැහැ, because reading of the requirement of the examiner itself is a task. The requirement එක කියවන එක කතාවක් ළමයි. It's a kind of a work that you have to do. So reading of question number 6 and 7 should be done at the reading time. ළමයි මේක reading time එකේ කරන්න හැමෝම. Everybody do it at the reading time, right? So make a reading time, read 6 and 7 at the reading time. start answering MCQs first. Right? ලියන්න පටන් ගත්තාම MCQ වලින් පටන් ගන්න. MCQs will give you that kind of a kick. Right? MCQs අපි ටිකක් කැමති ඉන්නේ, we like it. So that gives you the kick to start the paper. එකෙන් පටන් ගන්න paper එක. MCQ වලින් පටන් ගන්න ළමයි, then ලියන එක, writing of your paper, and then what you can do is you can then move on to either the 6 and 7 or either question number 2. What MCQ පටන් අරන් 6 and 7 වලට යන්න පුළුවන්, නැත්නම් question 2 වලින් පටන් ගන්න පිළිවෙලට යන්නත් පුළුවන්. ඒක ඔයාට, that's up to you, right? But my advice, the strategy that we are going to use, that many students who won the prize, many students who passed the exam, right, adopted, was that reading question number 6 and 7 at the reading time and then starting with MCQs. Do it in that way, right? That's a strategy that's tried and tested by prize winners as well as by students who have passed the exam with flying colors. So do it in that way, right? So one few tips, tips keep up, right? Another few tips for all of you. Remember students, every time action verbs of the examiner, you got to answer your paper according to the examiner's action verb. Whatever the action verb examiner is presenting, answer according to that, right? Action verb and also consciously read the examiner's question. Now last week, right, we did the first half of the paper. You would have identified examiner is asking from you the most appropriate answer, is asking you the most appropriate answer, right? So when the examiner is asking you the most appropriate answer, students, you should have the kind of consciousness to pick the most appropriate answer in the MCQs. So reading with a conscious mind, on the පිළිවෙලක් තියෙන conscious mind එකේ මේක කියවන එකේ පොඩි game එකක් තියෙනවා. There is something in it, reading as well. And then only students, you have to write. ලියන කොටත් paragraph after paragraph, if it is to discuss, if it is to analyze, if it is to, let's say, elaborate, paragraph after paragraph, write down. Bullet point after bullet point, if it is to state, if it is to list, if it is to summarize, bullet point to bullet point liyan. Write according to action verbs. Paragraph after paragraph, bullet point after bullet point. If possible, get items from the standards. Standards වලින් ගන්න ළමයි, write down the standard number if possible. මතක නම් standard number එක දාන්න, මතක නැත්තම් දාන්න ඕනේ නැහැ. But apply things from the standards, and as much as possible, students, elaborate most appropriately. ප්‍රශ්නේ ආයි පාරක් ලියන එකෙන් නවතින්න, right? Don't write the question which is asked by the examiner once again as your answer. Now I have seen several times our students are reproducing the question itself in the answer script. ඒ වගේ වැඩ කරන්න එපා, right? Because examiner will pick it. So therefore, the points I told you, read it with a conscious mind. හොඳ උස්මක් කරන්, have a deep breath and read, right? No problem. You can recollect your mind, focus your mind, take a deep breath, which I did, right? මං කරපු වැඩ. හොඳ උස්මක් අරගෙන take a deep breath and focus on my question. That's something which I did. And then students, read it, pick the action verb එක pick කරන්න. වෙලාව තප්පර 10ක් අරගෙන get about 10 seconds, strategize your answer, write it down thereafter. That's what you got to do. එක පාටම දඩුවම් ගාලා උත්තරේ ලියන්න යන්න එපා. Don't try to write down the answer as, පටස් ගාලා ලියන්න යන්න එපා. Don't try to do it. Just recollect within 10 seconds how are you going to do. තප්පර 10ක් ගත්තා, S2 පියාගත්තා. මෙන්න මේ ටික එන්න ඕන. These things has to come. That's what I am going to write. So in that way, write down. Okay. So have a strategy, lamai, which all of you can do, because you came up to this level from business level 1, business level 2, from executive level 1, executive level 2, from cap 1, cap 2. You came up to corporate level students because you have that ability to get through this exam. So therefore, focus on the action verb, read properly, take a deep breath, recollect your answer, strategize your answer, put down that in your answer script, which you can all do as much as possible. Get ideas from the auditing standard, right? Standard application has to be there. We'll see. And then students, as much as possible, put examples, discuss, and come out with the final outcome for your answer. Right? Read them and do it in your exam. Okay, so shall we move on to today's first question that we are answering? We are answering today, December 2022, question number 6. Okay. In the meantime, today also you can use your chat box. Last week in our first discussion, we used the chat box to maximum effect. So today also you can use the chat box for anything to be clarified. Okay, so let me share. December 2022, question number 6. Right. So this is the question. So December 2022, question number 6. See. Let's read the examiner's requirement. Students, look at it. Using the information in the above scenario, prepare the management letter section for the procurement process. Using the information in the above scenario, prepare the management letter. What you got to do? Prepare. You got to develop it, right? Prepare management letter section for the procurement process, reporting 3 weaknesses in internal controls in respect of the procurement process of HL. So you got to present weaknesses in the procurement process. What are the shortcomings, limitations, weaknesses in the procurement, the purchasing process of HL? For each weakness that you identified, highlight the impact on HL and recommend a control to overcome the identified weaknesses. So internal control weaknesses, its impact and outcome. What are the controls to overcome this weakness? So elaborate the weakness, its impact, and what are you going to do as a control to overcome it. So this is a management letter section that you have to prepare. Students, now the relevant theory part. Now the internal control section that we have discussed, students, api me katha karapu internal control section ekේ you all have to remember COSO framework. Hamoma COSO framework mataka tiyaganna, specifically the control environment. Control environment section mataka නැත්නම් අද ගිහිල්ලා ආයෙ බලන්න. How the top management attitude, the policies, the procedures, having a code of conduct beneficial for the organization, the control environment, right? Management policies of the management. All these things should be very critical for all of you. Medic ඔක්කොම ඔයගලන්ට හරිම critical ළමයි, right? All these are really critical for all of you. So COSO framework, just go through once again. Then students, each business process again go through procurement process, then I would say the sales process, the cash process, the inventory process, right? The property, plant and equipment process, all processes go through once again before the exam. What are the documents involved? What are the documents involved? How will be the controls will be there? What are the test of controls you have to perform? How the limitations can be identified? What are the assertions that will be addressed? All points focus karana lamai. Approximately internal controls question will give you 10 marks. Internal controls second lamai lapulu 10 average enawa. The maker, this question is from SLAS 260 and 265. Communicating the weaknesses in internal controls with those charged with governance. How you prepare the management letter? Management letter එකේ කැලේ තමයි ළමයි මේ තියෙන්නේ SLAS 260 and 265. ඔය standards ටිකයි cycles ටිකයි, right? The processes ටිකයි, business processes ටිකයි හරියට බලා ගන්න ඕන ඕගොල්ලෝ, right? So we got to prepare extract of the management letter, weaknesses, then what is the impact of it, and what are the controls to overcome those weaknesses. When the examiner asks like this, weaknesses, impact and controls, one after the other, what's the best suitable method of presenting your answer? For this kind of a question, what's the best suitable method of presenting your answer? Answer ke present karna hondama vidiya mokada me wage ekak. Is it bullet points that you are coming prepare kiwama? Is it, I would say, paragraph format that you are coming, or is it a table format that you have to come? හොඳට පෙන්නන්න නම් answer එක. To show, elaborate properly. What is the most suitable method that you have to go with? Bullet points, paragraphs, or table? Weakness, impact, then control. How do you come? Put it in our chat box. කොහොමද ඔයාලට හිතෙන්නේ මොන විදිහට දැම්මොත් මේක හොඳ වෙයි? What is the best method? Put that in chat box. Yes. What's the best method? Put it as a table, no? මේක ළමයි table එකක් විදිහට දැම්ම නම් වඩා හොඳයි. Put it as a table. So put it as a table. අපි මේක table එකක් විදිහට හදමු ළමයි. Right? So we will come up with the weakness, the impact, and thereafter our recommendation of control. Part B, communicate to Excel's directors their responsibilities and the responsibilities of T&D in the prevention and detection of fraud. Fraud. For prevention and detection of fraud. To implement internal controls and to prevent and detect frauds, what's the responsibility of the directors, the management, and T&D may be the audit firm. So what's the relevant auditing standard, students here? Fraud eකට අදාළ standard එක මොකක්ද? Can anyone come up with the answer in chat box? Which standard gives you the idea about prevention, detection of frauds? මොන standard එකද ළමයි අපිට prevention, detection of frauds දෙන්නේ? SLMS 240. Very good, everybody. Fantastic, right? So as per that standard 240 අනුව කොහොමද කවුද responsible frauds නවත්තන්න? මොකද්ද audit firm එකේ හරි එයාගේ responsibility එක අපි ඒක බලමු. Question number 5. Question number C. Next one. Outline the responses that the audit team is required to provide. The responses that the audit team is required to provide in respect of the assessed risk of material misstatements due to fraud. You are required to include the overall responses and specific responses to the risk of misstatements at the assertion level due to fraud, and specific audit procedures you should perform. For the assessed risk of frauds, what are the responses that you have to come up with? ඔයා assess කරපු risk එකට ඔයාගේ response එක මොකක්ද? Students, assessment of risk and risk response. What's the relevant auditing standard? We have to respond at overall financial statement level as well as we have to respond at assertion level, right? So how do we respond to the fraud risk at overall level and assertion level? What's the standard that is discussing this? We can discuss the standard 315 and 330 as well as part 200 අපිට ගන්න පුළුවන්, right? Okay, good. So for the fraud risk, how we are going to respond? 240 as well. 240ත් අපිට මේකට දාන්න පුළුවන්. So 3 questions, part A, B, C. Everybody read again. හැමෝම එකපාරක් කියවන්න බලන්න. Reading of the question itself is 50% of passing the exam paper. කියවන්න බලන්න හැමෝම එකපාරක්. Read it once. So we got to prepare part of the management letter in a table format. The students' responsibilities for fraud, part B. Part C, responses to fraud risk. Right? Shall we move on? Shall we read the body of the paper? Right? Question number 6. I expect you to read this question at the reading time. Make our vinadi अंतिम මොහොතේ කියව. So shall we read? You are an audit manager at T&D Associates. It's an audit firm and is the engagement manager for the audit of Heavy Works Private Limited. Students, what is that company? It is a private limited. So private limited corporate governance not much applicable for the year ended 31st March 2022. Heavy Works Limited, HL, is specialized in the business of selling heavy equipments. Heavy equipments kiwa gaman ape olවට එන්නේ motor graders, the backhoe loaders, right? Backhoe lamai ඊට පස්සේ නේ motor graders, all these big heavy equipments, boom trucks, things like that. HL imports all equipment parts from a number of suppliers around the world and assembles them at its plant at Biagama. So the imports and assembles them at their plant at Biagama to manufacture. Different firm has been the auditor of HL for the past 3 financial years. So for previous 3 years, T&D is the auditors. So we have to be on alert on familiarity threat as well. The audit team started the audit planning activities of HL during July 2022. While reviewing the planning work of a team member, you noted the following information documented in the audit file. So you identify paper file. Right? These things came into your mind. Understanding of the procurement process at HL. This is how you understand the procurement process. Then when you are reading this, what sort of a mentality you should have? When you read this, what sort of an attitude you should read it with? SLAS 200 always talks about it. We have to focus, we have to look at auditing issues from which attitude? Auditing issues are the key one on attitude. Can I have your answers in chat box? Very good, right? You got to read it with professional skepticism. Always read it with a kind of a skeptical mindset. Always assume that a fraud can happen, right? Evidence can be contradictory with each other. Evidence can be contradictory with each other. SLU is 200, right? 200 may professional skepticism apply. So evidence can be contradictory. I would say all these sort of things, right? Frauds can happen, right? Risk of material misstatements are everywhere. Don't read it with a kind of a perfect mind. Read it with a kind of a negative mind. The store manager, first point, Amal, has been given the responsibility for the procurement activities of HL, as HL was operating with a limited number of staff. When you start itself, there is a problem. What's the problem? Store manager has been given the responsibility for procurement activities. What's the weakness that you identified here? Store manager given the responsibility for procurement. What is the weakness that you identified? Identify weakness. Store manager given the responsibility of ordering, procurement. What is it? You can talk even, right? Unmute and talk. Store manager procure. What's the weakness? Do you allow store manager to procure? It's a danger, right? It's a lack of segregation of duties, right? Store manager can order anything that he wants. So it's a poor segregation of duties. So because of this poor segregation of duties, what can happen is there can be frauds that can happen where store manager may order items which are not required. Order right? That's a problem. So let's read further. Give me a moment. Okay, so if your chat box is not working, right? If you have any questions, you can WhatsApp me as well, right? So some students asking questions through WhatsApp right now. So you can ask, I will answer your questions right now here itself, right? If your chat box is not working. Okay, let's go ahead. Amal has been working for HL for over 20 years, and the directors of HL consider him as a trustworthy employee. As such, the directors do not exercise oversight over the procurement department, nor monitor procurement activities. Students, in our theory sessions, we have identified procurement is one of the high risk areas that we can identify. It's a kind of a significant risk areas mostly. Significant risk area. Why? Procurement, suppliers can bribe your procurement staff. At that time, your company may procure at prices, not the optimum prices. Maybe the procurement staff may order items which are not required, right? Maybe bribe can involve. Students, what's the weakness that you identify? The top management do not exercise any oversight on the procurement. They are pretty much sure on normal. I see lack of COSO framework done. Put COSO framework. What do we see? We see lack of control environment, lack of proper sound effective control environment, right? Hari pilivelak tiyena control environment ekak apita penne naha. We don't see. Now students, as a company, you need to have internal controls. You can't trust employees. Employees trust karanna bෑ. So trust karapu manussaya thamai horakam karanne. The person who you trust will be the one who will be committing the fraud. So therefore, poor control environment we see. Lack of control environment. So you don't see internal controls, you don't see internal controls applied. So because of that, frauds can happen, and frauds may not be identified, concealed as well. So ideally, there should be proper approval process on procurement. There should be proper segregation of duties as a control. Palaveni weakness we identified. I'm just asking everybody, is this auditing paper difficult with these questions? May wage questions paper difficult. This is your December 2022 paper. Is your paper difficult? Can I have a response? Response is your paper difficult with these questions? Any questions? Yes, it is not difficult, right? It is not difficult. It's a very easy paper. If someone says auditing is difficult, it's not, right? It's how you answer these questions, how you understand these questions. So chartered is not that difficult, huh? Chartered is not a difficult question, examination. See, third point. Inventory is maintained using a computer system. The system generates a purchase requisition automatically. This system generates purchase requisitions automatically when the inventory quantity of a particular part falls below the reorder level set up in the inventory system. So when the inventory level falls below the reorder level, automatically requisition will be generated. The system generated purchase requisition is reviewed by the relevant department head in the assembly line, but the purchase requisition is checked for the required specifications and quantity of inventory and then submitted to the procurement department. We don't see an approval of purchase requisition as well, right? See next one. The supplier list is maintained by Amal. Dangerous, deadly, professional skepticism. Amal himself, who is in charge of stores, who is in charge of procurement, maintains supplier list as well. Suppliers can bribe Amal. Supplier can happen. He prepares this list based on the relationship he has developed over 20 years of work. Relationship maintain. Probably the favorations happen. No proper supplier evaluation, no proper tendering, no proper evaluation of quotations based on Amal. Amal can select a supplier. This list is entered into the inventory system by Amal. Amal is too much here. Second issue we have identified, no proper supplier selection. Bribes can happen. Suppliers can provide kickbacks to Amal. Amal can be bribed by any supplier. See, we need to identify only three. The procurement department staff, the purchasing department staff raises sequentially numbered, right? Sequentially numbered purchase orders based on the purchase requisition to a supplier, including supplier list maintained by Amal. Amal himself authorized the PO prior to them being sent to the suppliers. A copy of the PO is sent to the finance department. මේකට වැඩක් නැහැ. හැබැයි අපි ටිකක් බැලුවොත් purchase order එක copy කීයක් තියෙනවද ළමයි? How many copies should be there in a purchase order ideally? Minimum. How many copies? Purchase order, you know, purchase order should be a multi-copy document. Purchase order should be a multi-copy document, everybody. How many minimum number of copies should be there in purchase order? 4 copies. Really good, right? You guys are there. Spot on. So 4 copies should be there where original of purchase order should be going to the supplier. Copy should be go to warehouse. So I would say storekeeper or security guard. Finance department, 1 copy has to go. Another copy should be at the procurement department. Minimum. Authorized PO prior to them being to the supplier, a copy of the purchase order is sent to the finance. When the goods are received, Laurier goods to give supplier, the store clerk accepts the goods by signing the supplier dispatch note. No physical checking of goods. When the goods coming, just accept it. The supplier's dispatch note signed by the store clerk is returned to the supplier. Using the customer copy of the dispatch note, a numerically sequenced GRN is prepared by the store clerk. Using supplier's dispatch note, only the GRN issued. Students, is that correct? Do we have a physical inspection? No. You got to do a physical inspection before you accept the goods. Otherwise, suppliers will send lesser than the quantity you have ordered. Whatever they have sent may be expired, may be damaged. No physical inspection, right? So physical inspection we lack here. Yes, need to check with the purchase order. No, whether purchase order check karana, security guard has to do it. Students, to pick these items, you have to read this question at the reading time, not at the one last hour where tightly you are writing, right? Make a pick karanna or reading time make physical goods are added to the bins in stores and the supplier's dispatch note is stamped with the purchase order number. Dispatch note is stamped with the purchase order number and GRN number and filed in the stores. So document filing is also at the stores. 3 illanne pahak hayak tiyena dantama hayak vitara tiyena. When the supplier submits the invoice when it is coming, they attach a signed copy of the supplier dispatch note. Invoice will be attached with the dispatch note. These documents are received by the finance clerk and the purchase ledger is updated with the finance clerk. Supply invoices are reviewed and authorized for payment by the finance manager when they are due for payment per the credit terms given by suppliers. Before you release the payment, no 3-way matching done. 3-way matching kalla naha lamai payment එක release karanna issella. Prior to releasing the payment, no 3-way matching done. Students, what are the 3 documents that has to be matched before a payment is done? Prior to payment done, what are the 3 documents that has to be matched, which you can provide at your exam as well? What are the 3 documents that has to be reviewed? Purchase order, the GRN, and the invoice. Very good, everybody. Niyamai. Good job. So these are the issues, huh? Not a kind of a rocket science question. Yes, PO, invoice, and GRN. Very good. So WhatsApp also people are sending me the answers. Very good. There is an internal audit division of HL under the supervision of Manish. Right? There is an internal audit division. A recently qualified chartered accountant. The internal audit division is a small division compared to the size of HL. That's not good. Small division, lack of staff. The scope of the work of internal audit division is decided by the MD of HL. Managing director of HL decide the scope of internal audit. Students, internal auditing your topic. Internal audit topic which is around 5 to 6% of your syllabus, right? Internal auditing. International professional practice statements issued by Institute of Internal Auditors. IIA issued International Professional Practice Statement. As per these internal auditing standards, who should set the scope of internal audit work? Is it the managing director or is it the head of internal audit who has to decide the scope of internal audit? Internal audit මොනවද කරන්න ඕන කියලා කවුද decide කරන්න ළමයි? Head of internal audit නැත්නම් managing director? මතකද? Internal auditing standards. හොඳට බලා ගන්න. Look well. Head of internal audit has to decide. Executive management should not be involved with internal audit, right? So that's very ugly, not good. As per the instructions by the managing director, as per the instructions of managing director, the internal audit division has reviewed the payroll process and discovered a fraud at the assembly plant. There was a fraud at the assembly plant payroll. The fraud involved the payroll clerk creating fictitious, dummy, non-existent employees in the payroll system. Within 100 employees, payroll clerk has put dummy, fictitious, non-existent 1 or 2 names. And for those names, salaries have been paid to his own accounts. Can happen. The fraud involved the payroll clerk creating fictitious employees in the payroll system. It was informed to the audit team during the inquiries held with the internal auditor that the payroll clerk has been carrying out this fraud for last 5 years. However, the financial loss that had resulted from the fraud is immaterial. As per the information of last year's audit file, there are no proper internal controls in place in relation to the payroll process. Payroll controls. Using the information in the above scenario, prepare management letter section of the procurement process, reporting 3 weaknesses, your recommendations to its impact, and your recommendations. Okay, students, shall we write down the answer? All, let's write. Students, write down December 2022, question number 6, part A. December 2022, question 6, part A. December 2022, question 6, part A. Write down there. The management letter section. The management letter section for the procurement process. For the procurement process should be as follows. Should be as follows. Students, prepare a table with 3 columns. Column 3ක table එකක් හදන්න. Prepare a column with 3, prepare a table with 3 columns. Three-column table. On first column, පළවෙනි column එකේ ළමයි, this first column, write down weakness. First column, weakness. Weakness. Okay, weakness. Right. First column, weakness. Second column, impact. The middle column, impact. Weakness, and number 2, second column, impact. And number 3, third column, the right hand most column, recommended internal controls. Recommended internal controls. Recommended internal controls. Recommended internal controls. Students, write down first one. First weakness on your left hand column, left handmost column. First weakness, write down everybody. Palawan weakness second. Weak control environment. Weak. W-E-A-K, weak control environment. We will address that lack of controls over Amal's function, right? So weak control environment. So below that, explain. It has been observed. It has been observed that due to very long standing employment at HL, Amal's activities on stores, procurement, are not monitored. Furthermore, no proper segregation of duties in procurement. No proper segregation of duties in procurement. No proper segregation of duties in procurement. All has resulted a key weakness in control environment. A key, K-E-Y, key weakness in control environment. A key weakness in control environment. Everybody write down, right? A key weakness in control environment. Liam, right? As much as possible, you will write down. That's the only way to pass the exam, right? Otherwise, take this paper and looking at the suggested solution. Students, that also could have been done, but this is the most effective way, writing down answers. So go to the middle column. Another column, impact. What's the impact? So because of that, what will happen? Impact. So impact will be lack of segregation of duties. So Amal has control on all functions at procurement. So frauds can be happen and frauds can go undetected. We'll go undetected. So write down, due to lack of controls, middle column, impact. Due to lack of controls, as well as as well as due to lack of controls, as well as Amal being in charge. Amal being in charge lack of controls and Amal being in charge. Students, chat is open for all of you, right? Thanks. Amal being in charge on stores and the procurement. Amal being in charge on stores and the procurement. There is a risk that frauds committed by Amal may go undetected. May go undetected. So that's the impact. So on your right hand most column, your recommendation. What should be the recommendation, students? Ideally, there should be a SOD, segregation of duties. Segregation of duties where stores function, procurement function, supplier selection, and all these functions should be segregated into different employees. And there should be oversight activities for all these functions. There should be proper approvals, right? So segregation of duties we can recommend. So write down. The management should yes, monitor strategy, good. The management should specifically identify and segregate the stores, comma, procurement, and maintaining supplier master file. Maintaining supplier master file as three different functions. And separate employees should be employed. Separate employees should be employed. As a segregation of duties. Right. Students, write down number 2. Second weakness. Number 2. Second weakness is, students, that no proper supplier evaluation, right? Write down number 2, weakness number 2. No effective supplier evaluation. No effective supplier evaluation. No effective supply evaluation. Below that, explain everybody. Pallen explain karan hamoma. How do they enroll suppliers? Based on the relationships they have with Amal. That's the end of the story, right? So write down. At present, at present, at present, the supplier selection is done based on the relationships they maintain with Amal. The relationships they maintain with Amal and there is no objective supplier selection. No objective supplier selection. No objective supplier selection based on criteria such as reliability, financial standing, quality of products, etc. Quality of products, etc. So that's the weakness, right? So the middle column, middle column, write down what's the impact of it, right? AK impact. Write down the impact of it. So because of that, what will happen? Suppliers may bribe the procurement manager, the Amal, right? So write down. There is a risk of impact, right? Middle column. There is a risk of favorations on suppliers due to bribes, kickbacks, kickbacks that may involve in the process bribes and kickbacks involved in the process guys, check your microphones.
Hold.
bribes and kickbacks involved in the process. Ultimately resulting company ordering from unacceptable suppliers. Company ordering unacceptable supplies. Ordering unacceptable supplies. LIES. I may be at the exam write in this way. So recommendation, students, right hand side recommendation. So what's the control that you recommend? Or recommend control? Suppliers should be evaluated and approved by a procurement committee on a tender or whatever basis, right? Suppliers should be evaluated, approved based on a tender committee. Tender committee approve as well as what? Those suppliers should be approved by the board as well. Supplier list should be approved by the board of directors. That has to happen. So write down your recommendation. Suppliers should be evaluated. Suppliers should be evaluated. Should be evaluated. Based on pre-given criteria. Based on pre-given criteria. And should be approved by a procurement committee. This is how it happens, right? This is what we discussed at theory. Based on a procurement committee. Based on a procurement committee. And final list should be approved by board of directors. And final list should be approved by the board of directors. Final list should be approved by the board of directors. Okay, third one, number 3. So we will discuss the point that goods are received without physically checking, right? Physical check karan nathuwa thamai goods will be received. So write down number 3. It needs only 3. There are no 3-way matching. You can put them as well, right? Issues about 6 issues were there. Write down number 3. Third weakness. Number 3, lack of physical inspection. Lack of physical inspection. Below that explain. There is no physical inspection. There is no physical inspection of the goods received by the company. Of the goods received by the company. Whereas suppliers may send quantities lesser than the ordered. Suppliers may send quantities lesser than the ordered. Suppliers may send quantities lesser than the ordered, comma, may send quantities lesser than the ordered, comma, damaged or expired stock. Damaged or expired stock. Damaged or expired stock. So in the middle column, students, mother column in the middle column, write down the impact. Any discrepancy from the actual quantity sent. Sorry, any discrepancy from the actual quantity. Any discrepancy on the actual quantity. Discrepancy on the actual quantity from the ordered quantity. From the ordered quantity. There's a discrepancy, right? From the ordered quantity and actual quantity. Will result in financial losses to the company. Will result in financial losses to the company. Will result in financial losses to the company. Your recommendation on your right hand side. Recommendation. Your recommendation. Once the goods reach the warehouse, the store's staff or the security, should physically inspect the goods. Should physically inspect the goods. Should physically inspect the goods. Then only the GRN has to be issued. Then only the GRN has to be issued. Okay, that's how you got to answer, right? And develop your answer critically, logically, and a presentable manner. Last and present you get marks. Don't worry on anything. You can do it, right? You all can do. Answer develop write down what you know properly. You all will make it. Go to part B. Now see this question. Make an answer develop karamu. Communicate to Excel's directors their responsibilities and the responsibilities of T&D, that is the audit firm, in the prevention and detection of frauds. Students, the relevant auditing standard is SLAS 240 frauds. SLAS 240 frauds say the prevention and detection of frauds is a primary responsibility of the management of the organization. So the management of the organization should have effective internal controls to prevent, detect frauds. Controls has to be implemented by the management. So prevention and detection of frauds is the responsibility of management, and internal controls also is the responsibility of the management. Then what is the responsibility of the auditor, students? Auditor responsibility one. Can anyone write down that in the chat box? What's the responsibility of the auditors then? Auditor responsibility one. Can anyone put that in the chat box on frauds? You are not responsible for preventing, right? Ah, yes, Naren. Show us the yes. not check the authorization. We have to ensure that the financial statements audited by us are free from material misstatements due to frauds. And if a fraud has happened, we have to gather audit evidence and respond accordingly, in our opinion. We need to ensure that the financial statements audited by us are free from material misstatements due to frauds, right? Prevention detection is the responsibility of the management. Yes, that's a reasonable assurance that we have to do. Very good, right? Shall we write down? Write down. Yes. If you identified any fraud risk factors, as here, communicate that to the management. Really good. So write down. On top, write down as a heading, management. Management කියලා දාලා ළමයි පොඩි underlining පාරක් දාන්න. Put underlining. And right thereafter, the primary responsibility for prevention and detection of frauds, the primary responsibility for prevention and detection of frauds rest with, R-E-S-T, rest with the management of the organization. Rest with the management of the organization. The management, continue, the management must implement effective internal controls. Must implement effective internal controls to prevent and detect frauds. Must implement effective internal controls to prevent and detect frauds. Next, write down auditors. Sorry, T&D within brackets auditors. T&D within brackets auditors. So below that, write down T&D is responsible to obtain a reasonable assurance. Is responsible to obtain reasonable assurance that the financial statements audited by them are free from material misstatements. Due to frauds. Are free from material misstatements due to frauds. An auditor should maintain professional skepticism. And gather audit evidence. Professional skepticism and gather audit evidence on suspected frauds. on suspected frauds, such as payroll fraud at HL, such as payroll fraud at HL, such as payroll fraud at HL. Because in HL, you see a payroll fraud, right? Payroll fraud at HL. Okay, right, great. So shall we move on to part C? Look at part C, everybody. Part C, baran lamai. So outline, examiner is asking part C, outline the responses that the audit team is required to provide in respect of the assessed risk of material misstatements due to fraud. You are required to include the responses at the overall responses and specific responses to the risk of material misstatements at the assertion level due to fraud, and specific audit procedures you should perform. So students, SLAS 330 and 240 says responses on the assessed risk should be at two levels, at the overall financial statement level and assertion level. Students, at the overall financial statements level, how do you respond to risk? Overall audit level, risk and respond karan lamai. How are you going to respond on the overall level? SLAS 330 says, overall financial statement level, we respond to risk. If the risk is more, that means inherent risk and control risk is more. That is inherent risk and control risk taken together, we call it risk of material misstatements. If RMMS, risk of material misstatements, is more, we got to bring down the detection risk to reduce the audit risk. Detection risk ka api adu karanna on. Detection risk ka adu karanne overall level leke lamai. At the overall level, we reduce it by employing more experienced staff to the audit. Audited experienced staff members laganno. Maintaining professional skepticism throughout the audit. Skepticism meka audit teka purama karna. More experienced staff members. Increase the size of the sample. Reduce the materiality level. Materiality adu kala sample size එක වැඩි කරලා, right? More planning. Very good. Plan වැඩිපුර plan කරනවා. Super answers. So these are the overall level what we're going to do. Very good. So what next? Surprise the audit procedures. Yes. You do not planned audit procedures, but you do ad hoc, surprising, that kind of audit procedures. Increase the supervisory activities, Asanga. Good. Niyamai. Shall you write down? Okay. As per SLAS 240 and 330. As per SLAS 240 and 330. And 330, comma, following procedures, following responses to be performed. 240, following responses to be performed. Following procedures to be performed. Number one, overall response. Overall responses. So examiner's action verb is outline. Na? Outline kiwama, bullet points one by one write down. Yes, quality control review Lakmal. Very good, right? Niyamai. You guys are fantastic, right? So write down number one. Employ more experienced staff members. Employ more experienced staff members on significant risk areas. More experienced staff members on significant risk areas. More experienced staff members on significant risk areas. Number 2, more audit planning work. More audit planning work. Number 3, maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. Maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. Maintain professional skepticism throughout the audit. Next one. Involve surprising and unpredictable audit procedures. Surprising and unpredictable audit procedures. Surprising and unpredictable audit procedures. Next one. More quality control in direction, supervision and review. More quality control in direction, supervision and review. Write down. Next one, responses at the assertion level. Responses at the assertion level. Yes, Prasanna, you can write, right? Then Mama Tunak wage thamai liyanne hiටියේ. Reducing materiality and increasing sample also you can write. No problem, Prasanna. Ekak liyanna පුළුවන්, right? I wanted to only write 3, we written about 4, right? Next one, write down. Responses at the assertion level. Write down. Change the nature, timing, and extent of audit procedures. Number 2, now here students, what are the assertions that may be misstated? Now fictitious, non-existent employee names are included in payroll. Non-existent employees are included in the payroll. So existence will be an assertion. Occurrence, right? Occurrence, not occurred. Occur vecha nati expenses spark kallati. So occurrence, right? In liabilities, the existence of the liability, right? Existence of the liability, occurrence, completeness of payroll, right? These assertions may be accuracy. Okay. So write down audit procedures. Api evada procedures tika liyamu, right? So write down. Number 1. Sorry. Number 1. Compare the time worked. Compare the time worked and attendance sheets. No, occurrence no. Compare the time worked and attendance sheets. And attendance sheets to the final payroll summary. To the final payroll summary. To the final payroll summary. In order to identify any fictitious employee names included. In order to identify any fictitious employee names included. Any fictitious employee names included. Number one. Number two. Yes, yes. Good luck, man. Very good. You can write, no problem. Next one. Recalculate payroll cost. Recalculate payroll cost. Comma. Compare the payroll cost with the previous year. Compare the payroll cost with the previous year. In order to identify material variances. Compare the payroll cost with the previous year in order to identify material deviations, material variances. Inspect IS personal file verification. Very good, Shwasti. Inspect the leavers and the joiners who left and who joined. Inspect the leavers and the joiners month on month to identify whether those are approved or not. To identify whether those are approved or not. Okay, that's how you answer question number 6, students, right? Hayata uttaraliyanne ehumai very consciously, right? This risk assessment question will come in your paper, right? Menna meka hondara balagan lamai. One final instruction on the risk assessment paper. Podi risk assessment paper ekata podi instruction ekak. One final instruction. When you answer a risk assessment paper, students, the question risk assessment question එක answer කරනකොට always your answer should be designed for a particular assertion. Assertion එකකට තමයි answer එක design වෙන්න ඕන. Right? So remember that. So in the exam you may be given audit risk. Risk of material misstatements, that is inherent risk and control risk will be there. So it can be audit risk. It can be business risk. Business risk වෙන්නත් පුළුවන්. That means due to that particular company, client in a particular industry, particular business, there can be risk of material misstatements at the assertions. Maybe due to inventory becoming obsolete, inventory overestimation, overvaluation. That's a misstatement. So because of that, L case 2 may be misstated. Why not? Business risk from the business risk, audit risk, assertion, the risk on the assertion, and what's your response? Business risk audit risk assertion attack audit procedure. That's what you got to do. Specifically answer the way we have written, then you will get marks. Risk assessment question is a mandatory question that is coming. Be ready for that. Everybody, right? Yes, Lakmal, month-wise payroll reconciliation also, that's correct. Right? No problem. Okay, so shall we move on to question number 7 quickly? Pat. Let's move on to question number 7. Yes, resigned employees, see whether they have been removed from the payroll. Very good, right? Look at the requirements of the examiner in question number 7. Easy question, standard going concern. It's a really very difficult, very easy question for you to answer. Give me a moment, students. Have a cup of water. Give me a moment. Okay, everyone, question number 7. Look at examiner's question part A. Design 5 audit procedures. 5 procedures that the audit team should perform. Your team should perform to address the significant risk on going concern. So, students, what is the relevant auditing standard? Make another standard. Specific procedures to address the risk on going concern. What's the standard? Can anyone remember? SLAUS 570. 570. Asanga, good. Okay, very good. SLAUS 570 is the relevant auditing standard. So, what are the procedures that to be implemented on going concern? Going concern relevant procedure, students, you can inquire from the management on their actions on going concern. What are their mitigating actions? Inquire from company lawyer about the enforcement of legal actions, right? Obtain and inspect the latest available cash flow forecast, available, let's say, profitability forecast, inspect them, review board meeting minutes, review correspondence with legal documents, right? All these, whether the interest paid on loans, the covenants of loans can be inspected, finally obtain a management written representation. 10 marks, those procedures you can perform. Part B, assess the disclosure in the financial statement suggested by the management given the scenario above, highlighting the deficiencies. assess the disclosure in the financial statements suggested by the management given in the above scenario, highlighting deficiencies in the management disclosure. Management would have done a disclosure in the accounts. So we got to evaluate whether that disclosure is adequate. Maybe going concern disclosures have been done. So whether that disclosure is adequate, we have to evaluate for 6 marks. Select the appropriate implication on the audit report on the possible outcome of the audit work on going concern as given in 1 and 2 above. What is the audit report implication? Are we going ahead with a true and fair view, unmodified opinion, emphasis of matter paragraph, or qualified opinion, adverse disclaimer? What's your opinion that you are going to provide? Read the examiner's requirement. Read the requirements. Read the requirements once again, everybody. Read it. Right. Let's read the paper. Let's read the question. Question is maybe going concern issues are there. SLA is 570. We got to apply. Fashion Fabric Private Limited. Again, a private limited liability company. Fashion Fabric Private Limited, PVT, is a fabric manufacturer and a direct and indirect exporter both. The company is a fully owned subsidiary. It's a private limited liability company of a parent company whose shares are all held by one family. So it's a family dominated company. 2 years ago, the company lost one of its key customers. Now we are seeing material uncertainties. Who contributed to approximately 60% of the revenue. So one key customer who accustomed to 60% of the revenue has been lost. As a result, over the last 2 years, the financial performance of FF has declined. In 2020, the management of the company prepared strategic plans to ensure business continuity. So 60% revenue generating customer lost. 60% revenue generating customer lost. And last 2 years, the financial performance has declined. All these are material uncertainties on going concern. Normally you say going concern issues. However, due to the outbreak of COVID-19, it was not possible for FF to implement these plans in full. Nevertheless, in the post-pandemic period, after the pandemic, pre means before, post means after. After the pandemic period, the management of FF has been very proactive. They were working hard, proactive. Before things happening, they do actions. And discussions are currently in progress with 2 new customers. The management is confident that the company will be able to meet the requirements of the 2 potential customers. It is expected that negotiations with these 2 customers will be finalized by mid-January 2023. So, as a repercussion, as a remedial, as a mitigating action, now the business is in discussions with the 2 different customers, but no agreement signed. Tama agreement ekak sign කරලා නැහැ, still in discussions to be finalized in mid-January. Agreements not yet signed, but discussions are going. The management of FF has accordingly prepared the budget. They prepared a budget. මේගොල්ලෝ ළමයි budget එකක් prepare කරා. Students, I lost you somewhere, right? Sorry. Let me share the screen once again. Connection problem. Sorry for that. Let me share you. So we will read from this para, right? The management of FF has accordingly prepared the budget for the year ended 31st December 2023, considering the strategic plans and ongoing negotiations with the new customers. And expected cash flows have been forecasted for 3 years. So based on the discussions with 2 new customers, they prepared cash flow planning. The management expects to get back to normal financial performance by Q1 of 2024. Hence, the board of directors do not believe that there is a need to liquidate the company in the near future. So board believes company will be in going concern. Board of directors believe that their company will be in going concern for the near future. Let's see whether they can do it. Presently, the parent company, a parent, provides financial support to FF to meet its present obligations and thereby manage its working capital needs, and they have agreed to provide financial support for FF for another 1 year and does not request immediate repayment of its intercompany loan that has been provided as financial support to the company. Further, the bank continues to provide banking facilities to FF, and there are unutilized credit facilities available to the company. Students, I am asking, from the story up to now, whatever we have read, right? Whatever we have read so far, I am asking, what do you think? Do you think this company to be closed down this year, or is there any going concern? What's your response? Put it in our chat box. Will this company will have going concern, or will it be closed down? What's your response? Put it in chat box. It is going concern, no? Due to financial support of the parent, due to financial support of the bank, the company will going concern. But what? Going concern puluang, right? They have going concern. But what do we have? We have going concern problems, right? What do we say? We have material uncertainties of going concern, but still going concern established. Material uncertainties are there. You are the audit manager of FF for the year ended 31st December 2022, and you have considered going concern as a significant audit risk. Going concern is a significant audit risk, so you have to perform procedures. Procedures karan on. in relation to the audit of the financial statements for the year ending 31st December 2022, you have briefed the engagement team on this task. You briefed the team on this task. While the audit was in progress, you noted that potential negotiations with one of the customers became successful. Potential negotiations became successful and the other one failed. The new customer will engage with the company with effect from April 2023 and the agreement has been signed. Agreement is signed. The management has assessed that this contract will increase the revenue by 25% in the year ending 31st December 2023 compared to the year ending 31st December 2022. The management has not reassessed the cash flow forecast and is in process of securing another new customer in place of the failed negotiation to ensure revenue growth of the company. So things are a bit good now. For the period ended 30th November 2022, the company has made losses and has reported both net current liability and a net total liability. Give me a moment, students. Give me a moment. Right? So see. So company had a net current liability as well as net liability as well. So see the next page. The management has suggested that following disclosure related to going concern to be made. Many disclosure karannon. This disclosure with regard to going concern to be made in the year-end financial statements as the management evaluates the similar position as at 30th November 2022 will prevail at the year-end and the losses at the year-end forecasted to be significant. The management does not intend to include other related notes in the financial statements as well. Now, what is the note that the management include? Now, we have to evaluate this note as well. The company has made a loss of rupees this much million for the year ended 31st December 2022. They made a loss of this much 2022, a loss of 300 million in December 2021 corresponding year. The company has made a cash flow forecast and it is expected that the company will be able to turn around the business by end of Q1 2024. The board of directors therefore believe that the application of the going concern assumption is appropriate in the preparation of the financial statements for the year ended 31st December 2022. You are yet to receive some evidence related to the management's proposed actions to address the going concern issue. However, you are aware that the auditor's report can be impacted by the outcome of the audit work as follows. Number one, the going concern basis of accounting is appropriate, but material uncertainty exists and all facts are adequately disclosed in the financial statements. That's number one. So sometimes, students, uncertainties are there, but going concern appropriate, all factors adequately disclosed. Opinion material uncertainties are there, all disclosed. What's our opinion? Unmodified opinion with a what? Unmodified opinion with a proper disclosures done. So what? Unmodified opinion with the emphasis of matter paragraph. Very good. Emphasis of matter paragraph. Next one. The going concern basis of accounting is not appropriate, although applied in the preparation of financial statements. Number two, second instance, management prepared the financial statements on going concern basis, but we know through the issues that going concern is not applicable. Company is to be wound up next year. So using of going concern is not appropriate. What's your opinion? Can we go ahead with the unmodified opinion with the emphasis of matter there? No, at that time it's a significant deviation from accounting framework. It's a material misstatement because fundamentally disclosure is not done. You violate LKS 1 underlying concept of accounting. What's the opinion? It's a misstatement which is material and pervasive. Material and pervasive misstatement. Your opinion should be adverse opinion. Very good, everybody. Modified opinion, adverse opinion. Okay, shall we write down the answers? Answers clear, Mudabi. Part A, design 5 audit procedures the audit team should perform to address the significant risk of going concern. Write down. As per SLAUS 570. As per SLAUS 570. Following procedures should be performed. Number 1. Students, 10 marks means 5 procedures better to provide, right? Procedures. Number 1. Inquire and review. Inquire and review. Inquire and review. Management's action plans. Management's action plans prepared. Management's action plans prepared to overcome the going concern issues. Management's action plans prepared to overcome the going concern issues. Management's action plans prepared to overcome the going concern issues. Number 1. Number 2, that cash flow forecast and profitability forecast, we will review that as well. No? Number 2, obtain and review. Obtain and review. Yes, solvency test. Very good, right? Obtain and review. The cash flow forecast and the profitability forecast. Obtain and review the cash flow forecast and the profitability forecast prepared by the management. Prepared by the management. And its reasonability. And its reasonability. And its reasonability. That's number 2. Review. Next one, review. Yes, Shwasti, we discussed, right? Upcoming plans we discussed. Number 3, review. The discussion, review the discussions management having with potential customers. Yes, Hassan, that's good, right? Subsequent events, good. Review the discussions management having with potential customers. Review the discussions management having with the potential customers. And and whether those are reliable, and whether those are reliable, as well as the outcomes of the meetings. Evaluate preliminary assessment of going concern. That's also very good, right? Really good answer. Next one. Evaluate the preliminary assessment on going concern prepared by the management. Preliminary assessment of going concern prepared by the management. And identify all material uncertainties are captured. All material uncertainties are captured. Students, we should evaluate the financial support also, no? They say that the banks are supporting, they say that the parent company is supporting. So we need to have a kind of a confirmation from the parent company. So write down. Review whether any confirmations received from the parent company on financial support. Next one. Evaluate the bank loan agreements. And bank confirmations. To identify funding lines. Last one. Obtain a written representation from the management. Yes, very good. Obtain written representations from the management whether they assume that the company will be in going concern. And the mitigating actions available on material uncertainties. Part B. Look at part B. Everyone, quickly. Assess the disclosure in the financial statements suggested by the management given in the scenario. Highlight the deficiencies. Students, in this disclosure, what are the deficiencies that we have identified? Look at the disclosure. The company has made a loss of X million for December 31st, 2022, 300 million loss for 2021, had made a cash flow forecast, and it is expected that the company will be able to turn around. The board of directors therefore believe that the application of going concern assumption is appropriate in the preparation of financial statements. So what is not there? Right? Okay. So what is not there? They have not identified all material uncertainties. Not only these, the material uncertainties they have. Company has lost a major customer, 60% worth of a customer they have lost. Company is in a loss for a few years, right? So these material uncertainties they have not discussed. That has to come in the notes. And also there are mitigating actions not given. Bank confirmations, then I would say parent company support, they have not been discussed. So this given disclosure in the financial statements is not adequate. May disclosure adequate nalamai, right? Net liability position, right? Financial support, all these are not there. Very good, everybody. So write down. The given disclosure note, the given disclosure note, given disclosure note does not include, given disclosure note has following deficiencies. Has following deficiencies. Given disclosure notes having following deficiencies. Number one, deficiency number one. All material uncertainties faced by the company, all material uncertainties faced by the company are not being disclosed, are not being disclosed. Are not being disclosed. Number one. Number two, second one, the net liability and the net current liability position are also not discussed. Are also not discussed. Next one. The expected financial support from the parent company is not disclosed. Is not disclosed. Is not disclosed. So when you do not disclose these students, the disclosure note is not adequate. Fourth one, number 4. The availability of bank funding. The availability of bank funding is not also being disclosed. The availability of bank funding is not also disclosed. Disclosed. Now, am I audible to all of you? Can I hear you? Can myself audible?
Yes, sir, we can hear you. We can hear you.
Thank you. So write down next one. The availability of bank funding is not disclosed in the note. Availability of bank funding is not disclosed in the note. Yes. About the new customer also, mitigating action you have to disclose, right? Alut customer you got to say. Then only the shareholders will get to know, right, that you have a going concern. So write down next one. The status of the negotiations with new customer. The status of the negotiations with the new customer is not disclosed. Status of the negotiations with the new customer not disclosed. Full stop. So students, critically, right, what you got to do, critically analyze this, right? Don't write answers for the sake of writing, right? We just think this is the 7th question. By this time, your person who is collecting your answer script will be at the front. So you are now afraid as well, right? The time will run out. Don't be afraid, right? You will always strategize properly. This question number 7, when you come to this question, students, when you are coming, this will be the last, I would say, 15 minutes that you are going right now. Game play karana, right? You are answering. So may velave hariyatama oluwa kelin tiyaganna, right? Tie your answer script එක ගැට ගහලා then ලියන්න පටන් ගන්න, right? So these are the small points, right, that will add value to your answer script. 48 to 50, no, price එක නම් 68 to 70. That's what you got to do. Convert. Be stingy, right? Antarang ලකුණු ටික බේර ගන්න. Your marks. Look at last one, part C. Select the appropriate implication on your audit report based on the possible outcome of the audit work on going concern given in 1 and 2. Students, in this Roman number 1, you all said it's what? Unmodified opinion with the emphasis of matter paragraph. Write down Roman number 1. Roman number 1. An unmodified opinion with the emphasis of matter paragraph, a paragraph discussing the material uncertainties of going concern, should be provided. Roman number 2, second one for this one. That is, the going concern basis of accounting is not appropriate, although applied in the preparation of financial statements. So when the going concern is not appropriate, means, students, it's a kind of a adverse opinion you have to provide because this is material and pervasive. Write down. Yes. Can we mention the basis for adverse opinion paragraph? No. Examiner hasn't expected the basis for adverse opinion paragraph no. Yeah, ඔයාගෙන් basis for adverse opinion paragraph එකක් ඉල්ලලා නැහැ. He has not requested. So at that time, don't willingly go and provide a basis for adverse opinion paragraph students. That may sometimes, if you write an incorrect one, he may cut marks to you. So therefore, don't write anything that the examiner not requested. Just provide what is the opinion that you are providing, right? Basis for qualified opinion, adverse opinion, don't provide. Write down. Answer to part 2. An adverse opinion has to be provided. Adverse opinion provided since going concern is an underlying accounting principle, and it is misapplied, creating a material and pervasive effect. Full stop. So someone asked what is pervasive. I will take about 5 minutes. Summarize. That's the paper, right? December 2022 paper we have completely finished. We have not yet just went through the paper and just look at the suggested solution. We didn't do that, students. We have just written the entire answer, right? All 7 questions, MCQs, all the questions we have done, we written it. That's the way we go to write. You don't write. So we written it. Students, someone asked what is pervasiveness. Now in audit reporting, we got to identify what's the difference between being material and being pervasive. Material means information is material if it affects the economic decisions of the users. SLAS 320. If any misstatement is affecting the economic decisions of the users, it is material. But pervasive effect means something beyond materiality. Impact is so serious. Then you have to go for a qualified, not qualified, adverse or disclaimer of opinion. Impact more serious than material. So at that time, adverse or disclaimer of opinion you have to provide. Even not adverse or disclaimer, so how things become pervasive? If because of a misstatement, several areas in the financial statements are misstated. The misstatement is not confined to a particular area, but several areas are misstated. Revenue, let's say asset values, all are misstated. The next one, right? Next issue, impacted only 1 or 2 areas, but that area itself is quite significant in overall financial statement level. Example, assets are misstated, non-current assets. Non-current assets are 80% of total assets. Affected area so significant. Third one, fundamental disclosures not done, like related party not done. Those are pervasive. When the impact of a misstatement is pervasive, you go with the adverse opinion or a disclaimer of opinion if unable to obtain evidence that misstatement is a pervasive one. Remember that, right? Eka. Okay. Yes, financial statements has been misstated as a whole. Sir, any highly focused questions or areas in revision kit or past papers at last point? Yes, quality control, right? Quality of audit, right? Audit quality ekada balapanna paggala, right? Ogala quality control wala SLS QC 1 ekai, SLAS 220. Firm level quality and engagement, individual engagement level quality, oy tika hariyata bala ganna, right? Direction, supervision and review, engagement performance, human resource planning, right? Consultation. How do you do that? Then individual engagement level, what's your quality control? Then quality control framework, input, process, output and interactions. Quality control framework, look at it. Students, there are mandatory questions which are coming, which you have to focus on. The predictions, right? Basically, I would say, which some document also I have shared with some with our students. Predictions. Be prepared on these areas. Assurance engagements එක ළමයි අනිවාර්යයෙන්ම එනවා. Be prepared on assurance engagements. From SLSRE 2400, 2410, right? Then 4400, SLSA 3000, due diligence, right? Compilation, ඔක්කොම agreed upon procedures. හරියටම බලාගන්න ළමයි about 10 marks are coming from that area. Assurance and related services mandatory. ඉතුරු වෙලාව සම්පූර්ණයෙන් පාවිච්චි කරන්න ඒක බලන්න. Then students, quality control SLSQC1 and SLAUS 220 බලන්න. Internal auditing, international professional practice framework ඒක චුට්ටක් හොඳට බලාගන්න ළමයි. How auditors become independent, internal auditors, what are the services they are doing, how they become independent, right? ඔය A points ටික පොඩ්ඩක් බලාගෙන යන්න. What are the services they are doing? That thing. Digitalization, another mandatory question. Digitalization එකේ අනිවාර්යෙන් එනවා ළමයි robotic process automation, fintech, right? Then I would say AI, artificial intelligence, data analytics, big data. Look at it. Cloud, yes. Cloud working papers, safety. Digitalization පොඩ්ඩක් බලන්න. Together with, as Swasti said, cyber attacks බලලා cyber attacks and your cyber control. Attack එකයි control එකයි. Attack එකයි control එකයි study pack එකේ වෙනම පිටුවක් තියෙනවා ඒකට. Attack and control. So assurance, internal audit, quality control, digitalization. හතරයි. ethics පාඩමත් හොඳට බලන්න. ඔය පහ ළමයි ටිකක් කට්ටිය අමතක කරන areas පහක්. හැබැයි එතකොට when other people are not scoring well on that, if you score well on this, you definitely pass. Then students, internal controls. Classic internal controls question will come. Identify internal control weaknesses tika identify karla, identify the impact, and what's your recommendation. Controls question hodara balana, business process tika balagena yanna. Audit planning question එක SLAUS 300, 200, 240, 250, 315, 330. මම පට් ගාලා කියාගෙන යන්න ළමයි වෙලාව කොට ඉතුරු කරගන්න. Planning question, audit strategy and the plan, frauds, laws and regulations. Planning a group audit, SLAUS 600. හොඳට බලන්න. Group audit එක plan කරන්නේ කොහොමද? බලාගන්න මේ පාර. Then everybody prepare yourself on audit procedures. Evidence gathering එකත් හොඳට බලන්න, right? Areas that මම හිතන්නේ ඔයගොල්ලෝ බලලා තියෙන මේ වෙද්දි. How to perform a physical count of inventory, right? Positive confirmation and negative confirmation or receivables circularization. Look at them. Opening balances, initial engagement opening balances, SLAUS 510. Then SLAUS 710 corresponding figures. ඒකත් බලන්න, right? Then reporting standards ටික 700, 701 key audit matter, 705 modification, employees of matter, reporting related standards ටිකත් හරියට බලන්න ළමයි, right? මම කියන්නේ potential questions කොහෙන්ද examiner ඔයාට දාන්නේ, right? Where you have to be pretty much prepared for all these areas. Okay, so then in addition to that, yes, 560 500 ගණන් වල ටික 550 related party එක 550 550 560 subsequent event හොඳට මතක තියාගන්න 550 560 570 580 550 550 related party, 560 subsequent events, 570 going concern, 580 confirmations. standards ටික බලන්න. Right? Ready වෙලා ඉන්න. Related party ඔය standards ළමයි test කරන්න දෙන chance එක සෑහෙන වැඩි. So be prepared, everybody. Then I would say කිසිම දෙයක් less important කියලා අපිට කියන්න බෑ, but අර මම කිව්ව මුල් areas පහ where other students are scoring weak, if you score well you score marks, right? Related party අද බලන්න, right? අදම දැන් තව පැය 3-4ක් කරන් ටක් ගාලා වීඩියෝ බලාගෙන යන්න. That's what you got to do. Final instructions to all of you. අවසාන වශයෙන් කියන්න තියෙන්නේ, your paper as we did is a very standard paper, not that difficult. මේක අමාරු නෑ. But if you read properly, understand properly, write properly, ඔය තුනම කරන්න ඕන. Read properly, understand properly, write properly, you are passing. See, අවුලක් නෑ ළමයි. CA exams are very well standard. ඔක්කොම standard exam students, you can answer pretty much easily, right? So tomorrow also my phone is on. There were a lot of students who cleared their doubts during last few weeks. So if you have any doubts, just shoot up a kind of a text or whatever, WhatsApp message, get your stuff cleared in the last moment even, right? Okay, so students, so I wish on behalf of CS Sri Lanka, our team here, all the best and best wishes for your exam. We all know how hard you have worked, how much, pretty much effort that you have put for your exam. So all the best to all of you students. Really appreciate your participation on these sessions, because these sessions are worthwhile for all of you. Do your best and we know you will pass. So all the best. Have your courage, students. Believe in your strengths, right? You all have the strength. Good luck to all of you. Let's meet Monday as members of CS Sri Lanka. Until such time, take care everybody. Stay safe. Thank you.